I took a syllabus from a school and I started reading all the books and watching all the movies that if you're in film school, you would do. Then I started working as an indie, like a production assistant in independent film here because I live in Seattle, so within the Seattle community. And then when I got accepted into Women in Film, that's when I learned a little more and a lot more about the challenges women face. And then after I directed this short for them, I thought I'd branch out and approach different companies to see if I can get hired to direct certain, like even commercials. Once I was told that it's easier to hire a guy because you can make the money, while if you hire a woman, you will not get the money. Yeah, that's not going to stop me. If no one's going to hire me, then I'm going to make myself hire myself, which is what I'm doing. That's why I created the company and then started writing and learning everything about screenwriting and everything that I could about directing and about producing.
Welcome to Behind the Story, the show that explores the pivotal moments, lessons, and big visions of entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, leaders, and influencers redefining what's possible. I'm Jelani, your host and guide. Let's begin. Ileana, welcome to BTS.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So before filmmaking and LolitaMoon, who was Ileana?
Ileana she wanted to be an artist, definitely. And she was a little confused about herself and her direction. But she was a free spirit and open to experience many different things, different cultures and people and countries. Loved traveling. So that was Ileana at the time.
What were some of your earliest creative influences growing up?
I think I had this since I was a little girl. Well, initially I wanted to be a ballerina, and my father, he was always drawing, and my mom loved music, and also my relatives, they're artists, and that sort of influence. But what direction I took, but I think I had, when I was very young, I loved nature and playing in nature because I didn't grow up in the U.S. I was in the Dominican Republic until I was 8 years old. Okay. And I lived with my grandparents, so they really let me be free and experience nature and really appreciate animals and wildlife and that connection, like spiritual connection. I think that what sort of formed my connection to art and energy, because I think creativity is energy. It's like when I create, I feel like I'm receiving messages. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I'm an artist now.
Okay. What part of the Dominican Republic you grew up? I'm asking because I've got family ties to DR, so I'm curious. Like, what part where are you from?
My family's from Santiago.
Ah, okay, Santiago. Okay, I've been there. Very beautiful up there. Yeah, very nice. So, was there a moment when you were growing up that made you, or some pivotal moment where you fell in love with storytelling?
I always loved reading, and I think my connection to reading and writing, and then when I was in high school, I really wanted to like master poetry and write and literature. So books always attracted me, and like getting lost into these stories, and it's sort of like going to a different world and traveling, experiencing different dimensions. And I think that's what really attracted me about storytelling. And then the way like I evolve and how I explain my experiences to other people. Like I've had this friend saying that I tell stories about my life. Right. And I go on and on and on. So at some point they're like, okay, get to the point. Sort of extrapolating on what I have and exploring ideas and expanding on my daily experiences even. And I just noticed details that I think some people may not notice.
Right. You mentioned wanting to be a ballerina, and I know you've got a background in photography and theater. How did those, I guess, shape you into the filmmaker that you eventually became?
Well, I wanted to be a ballerina, and then my parents didn't really want me to go in that direction. But in high school, I think that's when it really started to form. Before that, I was always drawing and coloring books and trying to do like little animations for myself. Mm-hmm. But then in high school, I was invited to participate in a dance with one of my teachers who was a ballet dancer,
Yes.
and I picked it up very easily. And she thought I was a natural, but that didn't turn out because I was she was inviting me to because I grew up back east, so I was invited to like take some classes at Juilliard. So that didn't work out. But then I started doing painting, and since I think my father loved painting and art, that really shaped my connection to art as well,
Mm-hmm.
and storytelling. And then once I got into college, I did do modern dance for a bit because I went to UCLA, and I wanted to study all like art disciplines. I wanted to do studio art and sculpture and theater and ballet and modern dance and filmmaking. And then I think this second year of college, I started taking photography, and I really connected to photography. And then once I started doing photography, my interest in video started to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And the film school was right next door to the art school in UCLA. And I was considering that. And then I decided to go to do my own things and see how I felt about it.
Right.
But I took a break, so, and I'll tell you that after
Okay.
this question.
Yeah, no problem. What was it? Can you remember any specific person or a mentor that pushed you towards film? Or was that just all you?
Uh, it wasn't particularly a mentor, it was more my interest in filmmakers. So I started watching a lot of foreign films, like French filmmakers, and a lot of independent films and art house films.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw like, well, some of them like Vera Shilitova. She's like Czech New Wave, like Truffaut. Also like Jean Cocteau. He was an artist and then he became a surrealist director. And he was very interesting to me. Sort of, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. um,
Absolutely.
he worked in a very surrealist way. So he was a painter, and then he was doing photography, and then he started doing films, and sort of his perspective and like train of thought when he shot a film that really intrigued me. And I think he was the first one. And also when I was taking modern dance, I studied I think it's Vera Mar. I forgot her name. She's a Polish modern dancer, and she
Okay.
was doing an experimental film, and she went to Haiti, and she did this book, this whole study documentary on voodoo and dance in voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
That was very intriguing to me, and it sort of sparked something in me, I think, when I saw her work. And then that sort of started the process.
Oh, it's very interesting you brought up the Czech New Wave artist because that's one of the things when I was reading about you that I thought, well, that's interesting, that's different. And I'm curious, if I were to look at some of your work, where would I see that artist's influence, if anywhere, in your work?
Well, I think I like her subject matter, and I think some of the stories that I'm writing right now and some of the projects I'm trying to produce have
Mm-hmm.
sort of that element of like the rebellious nature. Like she has a lot of her work is about rebelling against society,
Okay.
but it's also very playful, and she works a lot with women.
Mm-hmm.
And then the photography is really incredible. So that influence because of my photography background, but also it influenced. I'm very spontaneous. There's a spontaneity about it as well.
Okay.
So the first short film I did was very spontaneous. Like I had an idea of what I wanted, but then I also let the actor take that and take it where they wanted,
Right.
in a certain way, as long as the story it's kept within the story, sort of the boundaries of the story. Yeah.
Very interesting. How is, tell me about your family life today and how does it impact your work, your creative expression?
I'm single, so
Any
I can tell
brothers,
anything.
any siblings, any you mentioned your parents
Yes,
earlier.
yes.
Are they still around?
So my brother, who's also an attorney, is a writer. He's my business partner and co-writer, and so we work together a lot and a lot of the writing,
Mhm.
and he handles all the legal for the company. So
Okay.
and then we have similar perspective on story and how to. like what direction we want to take this and the
Okay.
kind of stories we want to tell.
Okay. Then how did Lolita Moon Productions come to life, and what does the name mean?
It kind of came out of like a spark one night, but actually my middle name is Dolores, so it's like the shortened into Lolita.
Okay.
And then I'm a Pisces and it's ruled by the moon,
Okay.
the sign. So I put the both together and I came up with Lolita Moon.
Okay. Makes sense. And what were some of the first steps you took in learning how to direct and produce? It sounds like writing is just something you did, but what were some of the first steps early on that you took to learn about how to actually direct film?
Well, I started watching directors that I really like Truffaut and Cocteau, and I also watched Spielberg and looked at how he directs also in his films.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just took it upon myself to, since I knew I was studying experimental theater and acting,
Mm-hmm.
and I did photography, to just go and try it out on my own without having any studying anything at all, just from watching movies and how to get the written word like into live action. So it's sort of like brainstorming and experimenting, and also doing a lot of, because I liked Cassavetes as well,
Yes.
very experimental, spontaneous movement.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, after I started learning more about the business, I realized that I needed to study some more and start taking some classes to see exactly like all the intricacies that I was missing, actually.
Okay. Um, I'm not part of the entertainment industry, obviously, so I don't have any inside knowledge, but I have read stories of how challenging it can be for women directors in
Yes.
the business. And I wonder, can you talk about maybe some of the early challenges you faced breaking into the industry as a woman director?
Yeah. It was very difficult. I was lucky to, well, I self-taught. I like to start that I did self-taught, learn everything about directing from, I took a syllabus from a school and I started reading all the books and watching all the movies that if you're in film school, you would
Right.
do.
Right.
And then I started working as an indie, like a production assistant in independent film here, because I live in Seattle. So
Right.
within the Seattle community, and then when I got accepted into Women in Film, that's when I learned a little more and a lot more about the challenges of women face. And then after I directed this short for them, I thought I'd branch out and approach different companies to see if I can get hired to direct certain, like even commercials. Once I was told that it's easier to hire a guy because you can make the money, while if you hire a woman, you will not get the money.
Wow.
Yeah, I was told that once.
Wow. Was that discouraging? How did that sit with you? Was that discouraging to hear?
It was upsetting, but I said that's not going to stop me.
Good. Good.
If no one's going to hire me, then I'm going to make myself hire myself, which is what I'm doing. It's like that's why I created the company and then started writing and learning everything about screenwriting and everything that I could about directing and about producing, so that
Good.
I know everything that I need to know, although I still probably need to learn even more. But like, and also how to finance the projects so I can go out and finance my own projects and
Nice.
eventually maybe hire other women, and at least create stories for with women in lead roles. All the stories that we write have women in lead roles,
Hmm.
so that to give voice to these to women and girls and the underrepresented.
Understood.
Yeah.
Would you say that you have a signature filmmaking style? And if you do, how would you describe it?
Uh, I think it's a combination of structure and then spontaneity,
Okay.
or being in the moment. Because sometimes you're there and create a shot list, you have a script, but then you're in the moment, you're in the set, and suddenly there's an idea that comes to you, and it's intuition. Which is the most important thing I think in filmmaking, is to also listen to that intuition, and because certain things may be revealed that you may never have thought of and might actually make that scene even richer. than it was.
You mentioned a few different people and directors that have inspired you. Is there one out of all of them that you would say inspires your work the most, or is it just balance? So depending on what you're working on.
Um, I think it would be Cassavetes.
Why?
I like the fact that he's not so. I mean, he has a structure,
Hmm.
but then he's not beholden to that structure.
Okay.
He also allowed the actors to contribute and bring in, be in the moment, and give him freedom, because I think it's important to have freedom. When you find yourself in a cage, it's very difficult. You feel constricted. It's very difficult to express, especially intuitive mediums. So that's why I would choose him, because I like to work within those perimeters. But I also like to mention also Clint Eastwood, because he has 3 takes and like don't waste my time,
Can you
which is
talk about, is there one of your projects that you could look to that you would say changed you the most as a creator?
I don't know if you've seen this movie. It's called The Double Life of Veronica.
No, I've not seen it.
A French film. In French is La Double Vie de Véronique.
Okay.
And it's very dreamy. And it's a combination of elements like dream and structure, but also there's a love story in there, and there's this concept of if you had like a doppelganger and they were living a different life. And but it's mostly the way it was shot, and it has this there's something like ephemeral about the story that really captured me, and I think that's why I also wanted to tell stories and like put it in film,
Okay.
because there's a nuance in this story that like sometimes you capture in photography, or you feel like if you're like there's an energy exchange between people, and this film has this sort of like the unbearable lightness of being. I don't know if you've seen that. It's like
Yeah.
you're floating in this like ether, but it's hard to explain, but it's like it's very it just woke like it's something just woke up inside of me
Okay.
when I saw that too. And
Ephemeral, like you said a little
yeah,
while ago.
exactly. Yeah.
Let me ask you about awards. As a fan watching award shows, whether it's of music or
Mhm.
movies, as a fan, I'm always struck by when somebody wins an award. They always give this speech of "I didn't expect I was going to win" and
Yeah,
blah blah blah. And it always reminds me of something one of my martial arts teachers would tell me is beware of fake humility. It's
exactly.
okay to say that you expected to win. It's because
Yeah,
you do it to win. You don't do it because you hope to come second, right? So
exactly.
right, and you've won. I think I read you've won the Bronze Telly, you've won the Gold Aurora, and I'm just curious, how did you feel in those moments when you won? What did that mean for you and for your journey?
Well, the way these awards were not like there wasn't a ceremony. It was mostly you applied to the award
Hmm.
hoping to get recognition for your work, because eventually that will help propel your career in a way.
Right.
But when I did win, I was just jumping.
Of course, because that's the natural response, isn't it? It's like I
Exactly.
won, not I'm so glad I wasn't expecting to win. That just drives me nuts
Yeah.
whenever I see that.
Well,
It's okay to say you expected to win. What's wrong with that?
exactly. And in those cases, like for example, the Golden Globe and the Academy, you're nominated,
Right. So you
so
kind of have
you
an idea. Why not
yeah, you know
expect to
you're
win?
gonna
Then
win.
yeah, why not expect it? I'm always sitting there shaking my head. Oh God, I just muted during speeches. I don't even
Yeah,
want to hear it because it's like just, it sounds like what my teacher used to say. It sounds like just fake humility. It's
yeah,
okay to say, we put a lot into this film.
exactly,
We did our best, and the fact that we won is great. Not, well, we didn't expect to win, then why are you doing it?
exactly. No, but it makes sense to be thankful because it is hard work
Of course, of course.
to receive the recognition
Yes,
as well.
yes.
I think that's the right approach. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What was the experience like working with, you mentioned it earlier, Women in Film
Mhm.
and CBS? What was that experience like creating projects for them?
Um, it was a process. It was interesting. It was hardcore because you get critique. And I
Okay.
remember the first time I shot the short and we had a screening, and
Mhm.
before we edited it, it was very like shark. It was there were like sharks in the room.
Okay. So sort of like listening to like what the panel tell you what you did
Exactly.
wrong. Okay. How did that feel? What was that experience like?
It was a little intimidating, but I knew like what I wanted to capture, and some you can never please everyone, but I knew what I wanted to capture and express, and I did get a lot of support as well, which was great.
Yeah.
And then I continue. I think that it's done purposely because that's the kind of environment you might receive outside of this enclosed environment when you get like sharp critiques, and you may get it in the press or you get it from your peers that or other folks that work with you. So it's sort of like preparing you to be able to have that thick skin,
Yeah.
which helps. And so you're not taking everything personally, and you see, okay, you separate yourself from the work, and you see, okay, let me look at it from their perspective as well. Like if they disagree with me, and then see what they're seeing that I'm not seeing. And then that sort of helped me in that way. Although it was hard at the time, but a little
Right.
harsh, but it was good.
Okay. Tell me about that project. The A New Yorker in Paris is what it's called.
Yes, it's a short.
Yeah. How did that come about? Tell me about that.
Actually, that came about of I just had an idea, like because I
Hmm.
lived in Paris for like 8 years.
Okay.
So then when I'm now living in Seattle. So when I was here, I just had this idea, like it just like a dream, sort of
Hmm.
this idea popped in my dream, and then I started because I do a lot of stream of consciousness writing, and then I get ideas, and then that started, and then started developing the story, and all these other ideas popped into my head, and then I put it together. Um, and then I came up with this script, and I pitched it to some people locally to see how they felt about it, and they thought it was a good idea.
Hmm.
And then I started getting some attention here, and I went to like a gallery and I pitched it. It was like there was a sort of a PR session there, like group, and I pitched it, and then I got attention there, and people that wanted to work with me and raise the funds so we can do it, and then yeah, then it was all fundraise. Like we did two silent auctions and one live auction, and then I got a lot of local sponsors and French restaurants and local French community supported it. And then we raised the money we needed, and then we went to France and we went to Paris and shot it
Nice.
there.
You sound like your creative process is very, like you mentioned earlier, ephemeral, and then you just talked about conscious writing and whatnot. How do you balance that artistry with the realities of budget, time, and production logistics? How does that work?
I think, well, and I asked myself that too, that question, because right now I'm like dealing with these budgets for this feature that I'm going to direct.
Hmm.
I think because when I was in high school, I was thinking about going to pre-med. So I was doing a lot of mathematics and physics and chemistry, but I also like writing and art. So from the point on, and then being at UCLA, and it's really like UCLA's schedule is really tough because it's quarters and you have to take 4 to 5 classes and really know how to manage
Hmm.
that schedule. And that experience, I think, helped me learn how to compartmentalize my brain
Yes.
to if I need to do mathematics or like a lot of these logical and sort of tedious work. Can I just prepare my brain? Okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and okay, let's focus on this, and then get through it. And then I take a sort of a break, and I sort of recharge my brain, and it's sort of like I go into a different space and let myself just release all this tension from because the logical mind is very. I feel like you're in a square, like a very restricted environment, and then somehow like there's a shift in my brain and here, and then I'm doing artistic, which I feel like when I do art, like writing or artistic creative work, I feel like I'm floating.
Okay.
And I felt that like I go into a trance, that feeling, and it's really like sometimes it feels like you're having an out of body experience.
It sounds like your creative process is a very spiritual experience for you.
It is, yes.
To that, are there any rituals or personal practices that you have that help you to stay grounded and stay creative?
I do in the morning. Well, I do a lot of praying, and I do meditation, and I do yoga.
Hmm.
And every morning, like before I start the day, I like to do my meditation and prayers, and also do exercise, breathing exercises. And my normal ritual is I do my praying and meditation and exercise. I do like my tea, and then I just relax and just be in the moment before I start the day, and then I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I have a friend of mine who's an actor comedian, and a little while ago, he was online. Some people thought he was making fun of Tubi actors. He was calling them Tubi actors and
Mhm.
saying that Tubi actors are not real actors. And he gave the explanation of why, and then he came back on after and sort of reclarify what he was alluding to, so that people wouldn't misunderstand what he was saying. Not that he cares. He loves people, responding to him that way. But I'm curious, from your perspective, what's the state of independent film today? How do you see independent film and filmmakers currently?
Right now it's very difficult. The market is tough. I think because of the situation with the theaters and how the studios have moved away from independent film. I think, well, independents have to take it into their own hands and go out and produce and raise their money and find the right partners, which is what we're doing,
Hmm.
and just really keep creating and keep the movement. Even though the market is not economically in a precarious situation, I think that shouldn't stop anyone. If you want to create, you have to continue. That's what I tell myself. It's like chaos can be going all around me, but if I'm centered and focused, I just continue on my path.
That's a really good perspective. And tell me what you think about this. I think we live in a time where there's lots more opportunity for independent filmmakers because of technology
Yes.
and how much less it costs to even make quality. Because when I think back throughout my life when I was younger, and I think
Mhm.
back to Spike Lee's first movie, She's Gotta Have It, and how low budget that was and how iconic that movie is. Or think back to the movie Friday with Ice Cube, how low the cost that was to make, and different other films that are just iconic films to us now that was so less to make, where you can make those type of creative iconic type films now where they will even look better because of the technology. And I just think that if somebody has a good credit card and some young and upcoming actors and they've got a good story to tell, which
Exactly.
is what people like you and other independent filmmakers have, they have good stories to tell. I think it's actually more of an opportunity. And then you own your stuff because you did it on your own. I think now we live in a society where people gravitate more towards unique, independent things. Of course, we all want to see the big budget Marvel movie.
Yes.
We're all comic book fans, I am. But I think people do appreciate the creative, independent filmmakers. And I just wonder, in that context, what advice would you give to young directors and writers, especially women and multicultural creators?
I think that if you have a good story, definitely learn as much as possible about directing, writing, the film industry itself. But if you have passion for any of these disciplines or all of them,
Hmm.
and then you have a good grasp of storytelling, because I think it comes down to that. You can have technique in directing or cinematography and producing, have that ability. I mean, raising money is very important.
Of course.
learn that skill. But if you have a really good sense of storytelling, have a really good story to tell, it could be documentary or narrative or fiction. I think you should do everything possible to tell it. And there's so many tools. Like now AI is available as well that can
Right.
also help. And just taking an iPhone will also work. So, because it
Yeah.
really comes down to the story and also having really good actors, because
Of
that's what's going to
course.
make the story,
Of course.
really.
That's what can't be duplicated. You can't duplicate the talent. Either
Exactly.
people got
Exactly.
it or they don't.
Yeah.
Switching gears for just a bit, Ileana, on a more
Mhm.
personal sense, you've lived in Paris, from the Dominican Republic. You said you grew up in the East Coast. How did you end up in Seattle, of all places?
Well, actually, I was living in LA after I came from Paris.
Hmm.
I was living in LA, and then my brother, who's my business partner, he was going to law school here.
Okay.
So then my sister, who was living with me, wanted to come, and because she's very connected to my brother, so we decided to move here and come to Seattle. And
Okay.
but I also had a connection, like this curiosity about Seattle, because it's very indie oriented and very independent and sort of alternative minded. And there was like Pearl Jam was here and Nirvana, so that was also intriguing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let me ask you the cliche question of where you are now. What do you wish that you knew earlier in your career that you know now?
Um, I wish I knew how film financing works, because it took a long time. It was sort of like a puzzle, or like Sherlock Holmes investigation, to
Hmm.
find out how films are financed and
Okay.
how they come together, because in the end that's like the one thing. But also learning about all the different other positions, that how to work with like international partners, what agents are looking for, how they deal, like all those, how those deals are made, all those things that took, it was like a learning curve for me, basically.
How does that work? For like, I'm a layman. I have no idea
Yeah.
how it works. Let's just say I don't know. I have $100,000. It's
Yeah.
burning a hole in my pocket, and I say, Ileana, I've got $100,000. Can we do a film? Like, how does the financing work? Like, walk me through what that looks like.
So, well, there's three stages of making a film.
Okay.
Well, there's development, pre-production, and production. Each you need development. You need some money, but not necessarily if you can do a lot of the things yourself, like I do, and my brother. His name is James. We do.
James. Okay. I was going to forget my elder brother. His name is James too. He
Oh,
passed away.
interesting.
Yeah. Used to call him Jimmy. But anyway, go ahead.
He doesn't like that name, that nickname, but they do that.
Yeah.
My family does that too.
Okay. James. Well, we'll call him James. It's James.
Yes,
Okay.
James.
Go ahead.
So we do our development. We started on our own, and then we
And
start
what's
looking.
development? Is that getting the script together? Like, what's
Yes.
development for somebody who doesn't know?
So development is getting the script together, writing the script, then finding the partners you want to work with. Let's say you want to decide what location you want to shoot in. Let's say you want to do it internationally.
Okay.
So you want to shoot it in Germany or something like that. So
Okay.
then you do the research to find a right co-producing partner, and that's done because they have rebates, and most of these international productions, they go internationally because you get tax breaks
Okay.
for any funds that you spend there. You might get a percentage back.
Okay.
So you go to a place like Germany, you find a co-producing partner, since that's the rule that you need a co-producing partner in order to tap into the incentives,
The local market.
the local market, yes,
Okay.
and get the tax breaks.
Okay.
Then you find that partner, then you make the budget if you're shooting the entire film in a country like Germany. So then they will do the budget for you, and you will have to pay for that budget, or unless they become like a co-producer
Hmm.
and they really like your story, and they really like the project, they might just defer those payments
Okay.
until all the financing's raised. And then once the financing's raised and you look for the lead cast, then you're going into pre-production. So to find the financing, you have to have a pitch deck, which is kind of like a summary, like lookbook, a brief lookbook of.
Yeah. I've seen the pitch decks. That I've seen.
Yeah.
That part of it I
Oh,
have
good.
seen.
So the script, the budget,
Hmm.
that's what you need. Have to make sure where your location is, an idea of when you want to shoot, like if the timeline, like if you want to shoot in 6 months from now or a year from now, and then the kind of actors you like to have on board. And then you start looking for equity. So you need about 20 to 30% of equity. Generally, you don't always need that, but generally that's the standard like
Hmm.
model of getting 20 to 30 equity so you can attach leads. So if you're doing like a commercial film that you want to take out into the market and to sell to distributors, you probably need some kind of name actor that's going to carry your film and your budget.
Right. Something to attract the distributors to want to be part of it.
Exactly. And then also the senior level investors or
Right.
financiers.
Right.
So, and then that takes place in like final development. And then between final development and early pre production, and just before, like it could be called pre,
Hmm.
that period. So you have that already ready. You have financiers that are interested in your project. Now you need to find, like with the equity attached to cast, that's going to unlock the financing, the rest of the financing.
Hmm.
So you get a sales agent on board, international sales agent, and then they'll do pre-sales of the project. So to distributors in different countries.
Right.
So once you get those estimates, then you take it to a financier or a bank, and
So
they
they can have an
loan.
idea of what their ROI potentially can be.
Exactly. So,
Who?
and what exactly? Yeah.
No, I was going to ask you, who's the person doing this? What's their title? Is that the showrunner, producer? Like,
That's
who
the
is the?
producer. It's
That's
the
the producer's job
yeah.
to do everything you just described. I mean, to oversee everything you've just described.
Yeah, that's the producer, but you also work with an executive producer. And the
Okay.
executive producer usually will also come in and help find the financiers and work with the producer to get like the financing and all these elements in place.
That makes sense because I often wonder when I'm watching credits because my little brother is in movies and I'm always excited to sit there and watch the credits to see his name as part of the production team or whatnot. And I'm
Mhm.
always asking myself, why do they have 15 producers? Like, what are 15 producers doing? Now I sort of get it. You've got maybe the executive producer more on the business side of things.
Yeah.
Then you have producers that are probably on set, and then producers like they're all producers handling probably different components of what you just described.
Well,
Am I assuming that sort of wrong?
some producers get credit. It could be a finance like an investor. They get an
Okay.
executive producer credit.
And that's part of their deal to be put on
Yes.
as producer
Yeah,
as part of
executive
their.
producer. Uh-huh. And
Okay.
then there's producers, like it could be two producers working together,
Mm-hmm.
doing all this work. And
Mm-hmm.
then the executive producers are the ones that are usually bringing in funds or financiers or investors. They get that title.
Okay.
And also maybe an actor who wants that credit. They might get a lower cut up front in exchange for a credit, and then they get the rest in back end.
Equity, which if it's
Yeah,
a
equity.
successful film is obviously the smartest way to do it.
Yes.
What upcoming projects have you got coming that you're excited about that you can share?
Sure. So right now we're in pre with
Now I know
actually,
what that means.
yes, exactly. It's called Topple,
Topple.
and
Okay.
it's a female-led action thriller, and it's stipulated to shoot start pre-production in spring of 2026,
Okay.
and our location is in Croatia,
Oh wow. Okay. I've been to
and we're
Croatia.
going to. Oh, you have been to Croatia?
I love Croatia,
Nice.
especially in the summertime. It's the summertime. Those beaches in Croatia are really nice.
Oh, nice. I haven't been there yet, so
You'll love it.
looking
I've
forward.
lived in Eastern Europe, so I'm very familiar
Ah, nice.
with the Eastern Bloc. Okay, so you're shooting in Croatia in the spring. All of
Yeah,
it is all of it going to be shot there?
we're going to shoot most of it there, and then we have I think about a few days in Liverpool, the UK.
Okay. Okay.
And then we have a slate now, so of projects, and after that we want to shoot it. It's a spy thriller in takes place in New Mexico and Scotland, and then we have
Wait, let me ask
supernatural.
you this. Wait, I'm
Yeah,
curious because
yeah,
New Mexico and Scotland.
Yes.
I've been to both places, completely different. Is it because you need those places, or is that just for like the tax breaks or what you mentioned, or is it going to be New Mexico incorporated into the film and Scotland incorporated into the film?
Well, the story takes place. Well, the story takes place in Moscow and New Mexico and New York,
Okay, okay.
but we're setting Moscow in Glasgow.
In Scotland, I was going to say, because
Yeah,
probably
we're in talks right now to
okay,
do that.
probably not a good idea to go to Moscow right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we want to set that up there, and we're talking to one of the actors in Topple, Graham McTavish.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
because he also produces, so we're in talks with him to see if he will do it with us.
Oh, nice.
And then the other part of the story takes place in New Mexico, like Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and a few days in New York City. So,
Okay. Sounds
um,
very interesting. Let me go back a bit to talk to you about directing. How do you, so let me say this first. I know I can never be an actor. I know I can never be an actor because I would suck. And the reason I know that is because years ago when I was in my 20s, I
mhm,
had the opportunity to be an extra on a set in
mhm,
LA. Needed some money and a couple $100s. You spend a day as an extra.
yeah,
And that was enough of me watching what the actors went through to know I'd probably kill myself if I had to do the same two lines for 10 hours over and over in
that's why I
different
did
shots.
3 takes.
I sat there and I thought, I could never do this. I'm glad I'm just sitting in the back in this nightclub scene, not doing anything. I couldn't do this. So I say that because I want to ask you, how do you, when you're working with an actor as a director, how do you make that connection to get them to really come out with the authenticity and the emotional connection to the role? How does that start for you as the director?
I don't think it's not really a force process. It's understanding the character, the motivations of the character, the emotion, and then like the psychology of the character.
Hmm.
And I think once because there's has to be really good communication between the actor and the director, and
Right,
it's a lot of preparation
right,
of understanding, studying the character, studying the lines. What does when this character says this line, what do they mean by that? And or if they say it this way, will it achieve the same goal that like the scene's trying to achieve?
right.
So it's I think the actors they when they're performing and they react a certain way and they say certain things a certain way, it's because there's a lot of prep before that.
Got it.
There's a lot of studying of the psychology of the character, how to pronounce, how to say like uh, how like what the decisions being made also spontaneous like at that moment. And
Yes.
if you say hello, hello, you
Yeah.
might get a different reaction from someone that if you say hello
Right.
or
Yes.
hello or something,
Something
because
like
you
that.
you might get a different. And it's also like being present, like listening to the other actor and how they react to what you're saying and how you respond,
Hmm.
or the lines that you're emitting and the energy, because it's also about energy.
Yes.
It's not so much about words, but it's like psychology, energy, being the moment, what you get from the other actor and playing with that.
Hmm.
So it's like there is an interaction, like a cohesiveness and interchange, like sort of like a osmosis or
Yes.
a going on. And you might study, like you might learn how to say hello, how are you online in your prep. But then if you say hello, how are you in a certain way, and you get a different reaction from the other actor, then you know you didn't hit that mark. So you need to change your tone or change the way you say it or change your tone, like your voice, or how the energy feels and how to approach it, like and
Yeah.
how see how they react.
I do understand what you mean by that because years ago when I was in my 20s, I had a job doing sales and the manager said, "Hey, I want you to go take some acting classes."
Hmm.
Acting classes? Why? He said, "Just trust me. Go take some acting classes." And I
Hmm.
did, and I took some acting classes. And when part of the training, when I got back, he said, "Okay, so here's how I want you to think about it.
Mhm.
You're selling, but you have a script, right? When you watched a movie, when you were in the acting classes and you were doing the scripts, did you sound like you were reading? I said,
Mm.
no. And if you did sound like you were reading, how did that come off? Well, the acting coach would stop me. Hey, you sound like you're reading. You need to
Yeah.
be more natural. He said, exactly. So in selling, you need to use the script because it's
Mhm.
been designed to psychologically sell this item. But you
Right.
need to say it in a way that's so natural, so
Right.
authentic that it doesn't sound like you're reading, sort of like an actor delivers a line in a film. And
Mhm.
it made so much sense to me, and it helped me to be a good salesperson because I was able to step into that role of the salesman. So I understand what you're saying as far as hitting your mark and stuff, because as you're reciting the script to the person you're selling to, if you're not getting the response, you missed the mark. You didn't say it the way it was need to be
Exactly.
said and whatnot. So I know exactly what you mean by that. So I get it. I get it. I want to ask you, where do you see LolitaMoon Productions in the next few years?
Well, we want to produce our slate
Mhm.
and keep growing, and
Mhm.
eventually, well, we have a 5-year plan right now
Okay.
to produce at least 2 projects a year, and then get to the point where we can actually start distributing our own work, and in the process bring other filmmakers on board and produce their work, and which we already are doing that as well, but also distribute their work as well.
Perfect, perfect. As we wrap up, Ileana, I want to. Can you just tell me where can people listening follow your work, stay connected with you, and to be aware of your future projects, or even connect you if they want to invest in one of your future projects?
Well, I'm always on LinkedIn,
Okay.
which is an amazing networking tool.
Yes.
They can follow Topple, which is on Instagram,
Okay.
and I also have an Instagram account as well. And then I also have a website, LolitaMoon.com, and they can email me through there if they have want to invest or discuss any of our projects or learn anything else about
Perfect.
us. And
Perfect.
that's how we can be reached at the moment.
And when is I know Topple is slated to start production in the spring. When are you projecting to have it released? Possibly.
Released in 2027.
Okay, I gotta get an invite to come to
Yes.
the premiere. I'm gonna hold you to that. We're gonna stay in touch,
Yes.
stay connected, and I've got to be able to say, yeah, I talked to her when this was in pre-production.
Yes. Yes. And the angels are with us. The God.
Yes, I'm gonna sit tight and wait for my invitation to that premiere for Topple. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
hold you to that. Well, Ileana, thank you so much for joining
Thank
me on
you.
BTS. It was such a pleasure to meet you and chat with you. And thank you for sharing your story and everything you're working on with our audience.
Thank you very much. It
Bye.
was a pleasure. And stay authentic.
I will. Thank you. Cheers.
Behind the story.